being humble is just lying. It's just seen as being polite by society. A few years ago, I made a TikTok video where I started out by saying, "Hi, I'm Ray, and I'm a master digital oil painter." That video sort of went viral. Not because of the art that I showed in the video, but because of the fact I referred to myself as a master. So many people thought I was conceited, but also so many people thought it was really inspiring and they wanted to learn how to be able to build that confidence in themselves too. So let's talk about it. Why am I so confident as an artist? Well, I'm gonna tell you my number one answer up front, okay? I am such a confident artist because I have literally and intentionally set aside time on multiple occasions in my life to sit down at a table with pen and paper and make some lists. In the first list, I wrote out what I think qualifies or makes somebody a successful artist. And in the second list, I wrote out what I think makes or qualifies somebody as a master at their craft. Now, this is very, very important. In both of these lists, I was only thinking about what I thought and not what I thought other people might think. That might seem confusing, but it is very important, okay? I was thinking about the artists that I look up to and I consider to be successful and consider to be masters. And I was asking myself, why do I think that? What qualities or traits or attributes or accomplishments do these people have that makes me think so highly of them? And that is what I wrote down. In the third list, I wrote out whether or not I met that criteria. If I didn't meet all of that criteria, I still asked myself, if another artist had met the same things that I met, would I think that they're less of an artist or less successful or less of a master at their craft than the people who met everything on that list? Personally, my answer to that was no. If my answers didn't change how I would perceive somebody else, then why would I let them change how I perceive myself? Like, this is the key to solidifying your resolve and your perception of your own talents. This exercise was the backbone to getting me to where I am today and how I feel about myself and my abilities. Once I had the realization that I qualified to call myself a master at my craft or a successful artist, the second thing I did was get in the habit of speaking well and kindly about myself out loud. First, just to myself in my head, then out loud to myself, looking in the mirror, to close friends and family, eventually to strangers, and then ultimately being able to do it in front of a camera or online. To somebody who is just meeting me or is haphazardly scrolling on social media and comes across one of my videos where I'm speaking about myself in this manner, I understand that it might come off as brash or even conceited, but what that person doesn't know and doesn't see is the years, the days, the hours, the nights spent literally hating myself, like being so self-deprecating, self-loathing, feeling less than, and just overall being not in a good place. If you're following me from other social media platforms, you may already know quite a lot about me, but if you don't, I won't get too much into it, but essentially I have had an incredibly hard life, harder than the average person. And this definitely affected my mental health for a really, really long time, and it affected the way I spoke about myself out loud and in front of others. It took me a really long time to unlearn the habit of not loving myself or feeling things like joy or pride. It was something I really had to work towards, but what really kick-started it was people would literally come up to me and say, "Hey, like, I don't feel comfortable being around you when you talk like that about yourself." And when my brain developed into adulthood, so after the age of 25, something just kind of like clicked in my brain and I was like, you know what? We can work on this. We can fix it. We don't have to be this version of ourselves, forever. This was in the middle of COVID. I was in my TikTok girl era. I mean, I still kind of am, but it was in a different way. But I was in my TikTok girl era and I went and I followed a bunch of creators who had what they called a God complex. And I saw how passionately and radically and expressively they loved themselves, but I saw it and I was like, that's a possibility I didn't even really know existed, and I wanted it. Like, I wanted to know what that might feel like. And so it was something I just like played with for fun, and then eventually I realized, like, this is such a beautiful way of life. Like, sure, other people might get uncomfortable around you, but isn't it better to make people uncomfortable for being like a rainbow, like for being a sliver of joy and of hope and self-love, than for being annoying to people because you hate yourself? People are always gonna be haters either way. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody is always gonna have something to say about you and how you think about yourself. Somebody is always going to disagree with you. So isn't it just like more enjoyable to love yourself and let them hate anyways than it is to hate yourself and let them hate anyways? Being a person who is more confident is going to open way more doors for you than being a person who is inherently negative ever will. That is just how it works. It's literally how it works. You are doing yourself way more favors by learning how to break out of your, oh no, I'm not that good, like, oh no, shell, than by not doing that. Some other reasons I consider myself to be a master at digital art, and these are my two favorite reasons. So number one is going to be because I have eyes, and the second one is because I am that thing's God. Now, I would like to think that I have eyes is self-explanatory, but in case it isn't, what I mean by that is I know what my art looks like. I know what the work of other people who I consider to be masters looks like, and I can look at our art side by side and think comparatively, these things go together, or at least they go together more so than if I swap out the master's work and I put in somebody who is intermediate or a beginner. Like, I'm in the same category as, you know, somebody of a certain caliber, and I know that because I have eyes. Like, I have eyes. Okay. And by I am that thing's God, I mean I am its literal creator. I made it. It exists because of me. It exists because of actions I took, decisions I made, you know, materials I used. If it were not, like, if you were to take me out of the equation at any point in the conception of that thing, it would not be born. Like, it would not be here without me. Like, if you took an easel, a canvas, a paintbrush, and threw them in a bucket and shook it around, it's not gonna come out if you don't also throw me in the bucket. Like, I am the secret ingredient. I am the key ingredient. I am its God. Nobody else created it, not a force of nature, not a stroke of luck. It is not talent. You'll hear me compare being an artist to being an athlete quite a lot. And there's so many reasons for that, but one of them is, like, when you're a pro athlete, you sacrifice so much of like a regular life or a regular existence in order to become like one of the best. And I align with that a lot because in order to get to the level that I am at, other than, you know, being a literal prodigy, which is so incredibly rare, like it just like really doesn't happen. The only way to get to where I got is through giving up so much. And I feel like it would be insulting to all of my sacrifices to say that I'm an amateur or anything other than, you know, a professional or a master at that craft. Another huge reason I consider myself a master at my craft is because I am disabled. That is not an exaggeration. That is not me being self-deprecating. That is literally just a fact of my life. I am a disabled person. I have at least 5 incurable health conditions that I'm living with. And a few of them, the majority of them, affect the use of my eyes and the use of my hands. The 2 very most important things you need as an artist. Bruh. Despite those limitations and it being literally torturously painful for me to make art most of the time, and basically every digital painting you ever see me show is going to be made through those conditions with those limitations. I only had about 13% of mobility in my hand at one time. And despite that, I literally refused to give up on my lifelong dream of being an artist, and I pushed through the unbearable. And not only did I continue to create and not give up, but I actually got better. Like, my skill level got better, even though I didn't have full use of my eyes and I didn't have full use of my hands. Because of that, like, having been the person who lived through it, every minute of pain, every breakdown, every moment of I want to give up, every moment of being like, but I want this so badly, like, how can I not look at myself and think I'm incredible? I'm gonna cry, but I'm not going to, but I might, but I'm not going to. But even if you don't agree with me on that, I will always feel that way. I don't see myself as someone to be pitied. I don't see myself as someone who attracts failure. I don't see myself as someone who can't accomplish what I want in life. And just in general, forget that I'm an artist as a person. I do not believe in being humble. Like, I do not believe anybody should be humble. I don't think it is an attractive quality. I don't think it's a good trait. This is probably because I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. To me, being humble is just lying. It's just seen as being polite by society, but to me, being humble is just lying. And lying isn't good, therefore being humble is stupid. Like, those are just my thoughts and my feelings. Saying you're a master at your craft doesn't mean that you think you are the best in the world. I totally think there are a ton of other digital artists better than me. I definitely don't think I am a master traditional oil painter. I do think I'm probably closer to being advanced than I am to being intermediate. And I definitely think I will eventually get to a place where I can call myself a master oil painter. But I still feel like I'm just gonna stick with professional artist as it suits me better. Saying you're a master at your craft doesn't mean that you're perfect at everything in your craft or that you don't think there's room for you to improve. I have the actual list of criteria that I had written out for what makes a successful artist and what makes a master artist to me. I would just like to make a second video for it. If that is something you want, let me know in the comments. And that's that for this video. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of my perspective, getting to know me a little bit better, and hopefully you are going to find some confidence within yourself. I really wish that for you. I wish that for everybody. Living any other way is just not worth it. So, anywho, like this video, subscribe, and I hope I see you again in the next one.